Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. It is about that time to get back in to a PMP Knives video. And I'm really excited about this one. I'm really digging the hell out of this knife. So much so that I was going to do an unboxing video for this knife, and I just couldn't wait. I wanted to get it open. I wanted to start playing with it. I wanted to get the photography done on it. And I'm really glad that I did, because I've had a lot of fun playing with this over the past couple days since it has arrived. As with all other PMP knives, you're going to get this really cool watertight case. Open this bad boy up and let's see what's inside. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Now tell me that doesn't look like a seriously expensive custom knife. It really has that look and feel to it. And while I almost want to call this a rock pattern, it's not. It's obviously not a random rock pattern. These are equally measured geometric patterns that are ground into the titanium. I am digging the living hell out of this knife. This is super fun. All right. Woo! Okay. My excitement aside, let's just talk about the knife for a moment, and then we'll get into the TLDW, and then the specs, and then I'll give you my personal thoughts on the knife overall. This is the PMP Knives Aries. These are about $300. I'm rounding it off because these are being made available in Germany through toolsforgents.com, and they have it at 300 euro. I don't know what the conversion rate is to US dollars. I'm just going to call it around 300 bucks. So if you go to toolsforgents.com, they have a whole section of PMP knives, and you can get a lot of really awesome knives from PMP and a lot of other brands, from production knives to custom knives, mid-tech knives, anything that you can imagine. They are a major source for awesome stuff. Okay, now, this particular knife is limited to only 300 pieces being made. Now, they have this one, which they're just calling gray, which is the natural titanium. I believe there's also a bronzed titanium variation available. I think it had a black blade. I'm having a hard time remembering, so excuse me if I'm wrong on that. Boy, that feels good in the hand. It really, the overall shape of it, the taper, everything feels really good. The little finger choil or half finger choil up here to choke up on, the jimping's in the right spot. Yeah, this thing is bad to the bone. Now, you do have very significant blade stops that are in the blade itself that can be used as thumb studs if you want, or you can use the blade window. You can slow roll it, you can thumb flick it, which is not as effective unless you have a really long thumb, and you can reverse flick it, and it comes out like lightning. Super smooth on bearings, titanium frame lock, perfectly matching pocket clip. That's a major thing for me, a beautifully sculpted, milled pocket clip that is then made to match the same design that's in the titanium frame. The pocket clip was not an afterthought. This is actually something that was designed to match the knife, and they did it really, really well. Thank you to PMP Knives for making your pocket clip a priority. Not only in the design, but also in the fact that it works really, really well in the pocket. Okay, for those of you that like to scour YouTube for knife reviews and then complain because the knife reviewer talked too much or took too long to get to the point, we're going to do my favorite section, the TLDW. Too long, didn't watch. And this gives you the pros and the cons, the highlights of the knife before we get to the specs and before we get to the remainder of my personal thoughts on the knife. Pros for me are the ergonomics. I love the back spine, this very gentle curvature to the back spine. It puts everything right in place, right where I want to be holding it. It allows my thumb to rest downward, so I've got leverage on the spine of the blade. And it curves nicely with the shape of my hand. And for a larger knife, this is over 8.5 inches in overall length, it doesn't feel as large as it is because of the way that it sits in your hand. And PMP knives are known for their crazy, ridiculous, large knives. They basically tell you on their own website, if you want something standard and boring, there's lots of choices out there. They want to stand out by doing something wild and different, and that is exactly what they do. They take really cool designs, they beef them up, they oversize them, and they do wild and wicked things with them. That is a 400 thou thick chunk of Damasteel in the Alpha Beast. It's insanity. Absolutely love that knife. Now this one is very tame by comparison. It weighs significantly less. It is tremendously slimmer, but it's still a long, oversized knife. Okay, other pros. I really like this pattern that they have ground into the titanium. And again, you want to look at it as though it's a rock chip pattern, but it's not. But it definitely does remind you of a rock chip pattern. But it's much more, as I mentioned before, it's much more geometric and it's much more uniform. There's no randomness, it doesn't seem like. It gets a little bit random looking in the pocket clip. That's because of the shape of the pocket clip. They did a great job on the overall design and the decoration of that design. Other pros: smooth, fast action, perfectly tuned tension on the lock bar that allows for a great detent and for that smooth action. Another pro, the stop pins that also act as thumb studs. It's a lot of fun to deploy. Another plus for me is the fact that it looks like it would be an abusive, abrasive knife because of the way the pattern comes off the edge, but it's not. Everything has been wonderfully rounded off, so all of the edges going all the way around the handle are softened really, really well. There's some internal milled pockets to make it much lighter in weight. Now, cons. And I hate to say this because I really, 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 really like PMP's knives overall, always have. But this one looks a little bit too much like the Dalibor Draco. If you look at Dalibor Bergham's custom knives, I go back a lot of years with Dalibor. I was one of the first people to review one of his knives. He's a custom maker out of Croatia and a really fantastic individual. And his Draco model is the one that kind of tapers off the most at the rear. This is very, very similar between the clip point, blade shape, and the way that this tapers at the rear, not including the the glass breaker and the lanyard backspacer. But just kind of the overall basic shape reminds me a lot of Dalabor's knives. I think another con for me, if I really, really had to go picking out one, lock bar access. That was what I was thinking of. This could be relieved just a little bit more to give you easier access to the lock. And that inside edge could be softened just a little bit like everything else is. That makes this stand out just a little bit more because the care that was taken all the way around every other perimeter edge. And that one's just a little bit sharp. Now, that gives you the access to very easily unlock it. See what they've done? They've milled out that little spot and it left like a little ledge right there. And that's what you feel with your finger. If I try really hard, I can scrape some skin off my thumb if I do it hard enough. But yeah, that definitely does catch. But is it the end of the world? Again, no, it's absolutely not. I do like this backspacer on here. I think it's pretty cool. You've almost got a pry bar back here. So you've got a kind of an attitude adjuster, skull crusher, glass breaker, whatever you want to call it. And it also gives you some leverage if you're in a reverse grip. You've got some jimping back there for your thumb to land on. And that's about it for my pros and cons. Let's get into the specs. Bring this over yonder. All right. So you've got a titanium frame lock. Your blade is 3 3/4 inches in length, made of S90V. Overall length of 8.61 inches. It is running on bearings, and the weight is 5.5 ounces. That is right around half the weight of the Alpha Beast. I think with all the internal milling on the frame and the thinner blade stock than what they typically use, they've made some really good choices for a more carryable large knife. Because again, a lot of what they do is they like to go overboard and do crazy, crazy things. So that generally means very large and very thick, which almost always relates to pretty darn heavy in the pocket. And this one really isn't. Now, I've only had this for a couple of days, so I've only been able to carry it once or twice. I like how it fit in the pocket. I like how it carried. I didn't really have any issues with the pocket clip or anything else. It's a little bit sharp on the lock bar relief cut. So you might have a little issue with your jean pocket getting torn up a little bit quicker with this knife than with some others. Good tension on that without being crazy. So it's definitely not going anywhere. Once it's in your pocket, it's staying there. But it's not a challenge really to get in or out. And let's take a look at why. Because you have 2 balls on there. That's right. 2 little balls. And you'll notice only one is making contact currently. It's making contact on the frame and not making contact on the lock. So it's not adding any pressure to the lock bar. Nice job on that, guys. I've also never seen anybody do it quite like that before. I mean, you had the beg ball, which you see one on the outside as an indication that you have the ball. And then you've got the standoff style pocket clip, again, much like Todd Begg does. But I've never seen somebody do it, the ball just on the underside and nowhere else. But that's where it's the most effective. So, hey, that's all that really matters, I suppose. So overall, I really, really dig this knife. It feels great. It's, for a large knife, it's actually fun to flick. It's fun to open and close. It's not quite as fidgety as something like an EMP EDC Nimble or a Witterblade Factor, because it's just so large. But it has the same kind of effortless, not tearing up your fingers or your thumbs kind of feel to it that makes you enjoy breaking it in, playing with it over and over and over. This will be that knife that the day that it arrives, you're going to sit down on your couch while you're watching a movie that night, and you're going to be sitting there flicking it open, closing it up, flicking it open, closing it, and over and over and over and over again. It feels good to do so. And it's going to be easy to use because you've got so much of a handhold here. Because of how large the handle is, you don't really have any limitations. You know, a lot of times we like to get into very small EDC knives, and that starts to present some limitations because of how small they tend to be that compact. You have a much shorter blade, and some you can't choke up on just right. Some of them you can't deploy in certain methods. And you certainly have no reach to them. And this one, you've got plenty of room to move around on that handle. You could choke up, you could pull back. No, don't say choke back. That doesn't make any sense. You could choke up or you could pull back. Blade is perfectly centered. You can't see that because it's blurry, but there we go. Blade is perfectly centered. I would expect that there is no blade play whatsoever. Even with the lock relieved, nothing. I mean, the build quality on the PMP knives has been outstanding. They're very, very, very close to being a Riot feeling knife. And that's something that I've really enjoyed about them. They do such a good job on the mechanics of the knife, but then also on the finish work of the knives. Now this one is just a kind of a plain basic stonewash. There's nothing crazy going on there. But you look at their bead blasts. You look at their polishing. And everything they do is really fantastic. Even the polish and the etch on this Damasteel. They put in the extra time that even when it's a cartoonish, ridiculously, crazily overdone knife like the Alpha Beast, you can still break it down and look at it and go, yeah, but the quality is there. It may be absurd, but it's still not a joke. It's still not a toy. It's still very, very well made. And the fact that they have upgraded into S90V is going to be a big deal for a lot of people. You know, we keep hearing M390 on every new knife that comes out. And as I've said countless times, that doesn't bother me because I love M390. It is still one of the best EDC steel blades that you can get your hands on. It's just that everybody and their brother has been using it on countless knives, especially knives coming out of China, that it's all you hear. And when you hear it so many times, you're like, oh, man, just pick something else, man. So they did. They went to S90V. I do believe that so the Berserker is M390. And I know my prototype of the Alpha Beast is M390. That one there is Damasteel. So they've definitely made the conscious effort to upgrade into the S90V. And I think it's going to make a lot of people happy. You've got phenomenal edge retention out of S90V. It is not the easiest to resharpen, so please do keep that in mind with any knife that you're looking at in S90V. You're going to get a lot of use out of it, but when it comes time to maintain that edge, it's going to take you just a little bit more time. It's nothing crazy. It's not like you're going to be pulling your hair out and spending an hour trying to resharpen it. I think some people tend to overblow that and make it sound like it's the most impossible thing to get a burr on. It's not. It's just tougher than if you were using, well, M390, S35VN, CPM 154, steels like that we're very used to working with. And yeah, it's going to take you a little bit longer to get the edge that you want, but it's nothing crazy. So all in all, I think this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous, fantastic oversized knife without being crazily overbuilt. It's got a great price on it. And whether it's PMP knives or anything else that you're looking at that you want to find something unique and find something cool, please visit my friends over at toolsforgents.com. They are a dealer out of Germany, so it'll take an extra 2 or 3 days to get to you, depending on how customs treat your package. Generally, when I get something from them, it takes about 6 days from the time they ship to the time it arrives, and they ship DHL. So they've always got very competitive prices, sometimes crazily low prices. They do specials from time to time, and they really know their stuff. If you ever have any questions, you can always send a message over to the guys over there, especially Dennis, the owner. Fantastic people, very easy to work with, and I think you'll enjoy your experience. And they have really good taste, so they select some really cool shit to put on their website. And that's it for me today, guys. I'm out of here for now, but I'll see you on the next video.